Credit Secrets. How to Erase Bad Credit. Chapter 3, Part 2. So, I left off here. Legal action. It is important to know your rights under the various federal and state laws regarding credit. These laws include the Fair Credit Reporting Act, Equal Credit Opportunity Act, Truth in Lending Act, Fair Credit Billing Act, and Fair Debt Collector Practices Act. By understanding your rights under these laws, you can prevent creditors and credit bureaus from taking advantage of you. If, for example, a credit bureau refuses to reinvestigate a disputed item, you may be able to file a complaint with the Federal Trade Commission as well as the Attorney General. You may also be entitled to collect damages for violation of your rights under the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Improper billing and unfair debt collection practices can also give you a right to file suit. In such cases, it may be wise to consult a competent attorney or consumer advocate. An attorney can file a motion for injunctive relief. This motion can lead to a court order for the credit bureau to temporarily refrain from listing all negative items being disputed until the case is resolved, which may be several years. It is also possible to file a complaint in small claims court without an attorney. Be sure to maintain complete records of all correspondence to back your claim. The following summaries of your rights under the various credit laws. Okay, so this is the Fair Credit Reporting Act. 1. To be told the nature and sources of the information collected by you about you by a credit bureau. 2. To obtain this information free of charge when you have been denied credit, insurance, or employment within the preceding 30 days. Otherwise, the reporting agency can charge a reasonable fee for the disclosure. 3. To be accompanied by anyone of your choosing when visiting the credit bureau. 4. To be told who has received your credit report within the preceding 6 months, or within the preceding 2 years if the report was furnished for employment purposes. 5. To have incomplete, incorrect, or obsolete information reinvestigated and, if found to be inaccurate or unverifiable, to have the information removed from your file. 6. When a dispute between you and the credit bureau cannot be resolved, to have your version of the dispute placed in the file and included in future reports. 7. To request that the credit bureau send your consumer statement to all future credit grantors. 8. To have a credit report withheld from anyone who does not have a legitimate business need for the information contained in it. 9. To sue a company for damages if it willfully or negligently violates the law, and if the suit is successful, to collect attorney fees and court costs. 10. To be notified if a company is requesting an investigative consumer report. Number 11. To request from an investigating company further information as to the nature and scope of the investigation. 12. To have negative information removed from your credit report after 7 years. One major exception is bankruptcy, which may be reported for 10. So that was the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Now this is the Equal Credit Opportunity Act. Also your rights. So 1. To find out the reason for credit denial. 2. To receive credit in your own name. 3. To refuse to answer questions about childbearing plans or birth control practices. 4. To have equal consideration of all credit criteria. 5. Including income between the sexes in determining creditworthiness. 5. To have alimony, child support, and separate maintenance considered as any other income. So that was number 5. Now we have the Truth in Lending Act. Just one point to it. To be given a complete written explanation of both the annual percentage rate, APR, being charged for any credit transaction and the total dollar amount of the transaction except for mortgages. Now we got the Fair Credit Billing Act. 1. To withhold payment of any disputed portion of a billing until the creditor resolves the dispute. 2. To receive acknowledgement from a creditor within 30 days. 3. To have the creditor resolve a dispute within 2 billing cycles. We have the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. 1. To receive verification from a debt collector of the amount that you owe. 2. To not be harassed or threatened by any debt collector. And we have the Federal Trade Commission is the agency responsible for enforcing all of the above regulations. If a company has violated your rights under any of these laws, you can file a complaint with the nearest regional office. Address your inquiries to Director. I'll show you. And here's the following addresses for the FTC regional offices. So I'll read that. After the following addresses of the FTC regional offices, then there's another section called File Segregation, which is what the author considers this to be the most abused and perhaps most controversial of all methods used to erase bad credit. At the same time, it is the most effective, most powerful dynamic method for totally erasing negative credit information virtually overnight. Because of the sensitive nature of this particular technique, I recommend contacting a reputable credit consultant or attorney. This may be able to assist you in establishing a brand new credit file for a fee between $1,000 to $3,000. The following agencies can refer you to a reputable professional in your area. And then goes on to say, a complete description of the file segregation method including the identification systems used by all the major credit bureaus in the United States is contained in Chapter 6. And we're in Chapter 3. Which methods to use?
I can't. Speak to a representative.
Different approaches are called for depending on the particular problem involved. The list below outlines typical credit problems and the best methods listed in order of effectiveness to eliminate the problem. So, here's the problem. A late payment, you'd want to go with either negotiation strategy, alternative dispute, or dispute method. A collection account, it's the same three. You'd want to go with a negotiation strategy, or you can go with the alternative dispute or a dispute method. Those are the three that would give you the typical outline on how to, eliminate your issue. Here's the charge off. You're going to want to go with the negotiation strategy or the dispute method. For paid collection, recommended dispute method, or the alternative dispute. What's the alternative dispute? The alternative dispute method involves disputing an item directly with the creditor by writing a letter to the company that reported the negative information. It is often possible to have the status of your account changed to a positive rating. This is especially effective with accounts that are several years old, as the information is more difficult to verify. It is also very effective in cases where there was defective merchandise or improper billing. Be sure to be direct. Be sure to direct your letter to the manager or vice president in charge of consumer relations. So that's the alternative dispute. For repossession, you'd want to go with either negotiation strategy or dispute method. For bankruptcy, circumvention strategy or dispute method. Defaulted student loans, unpaid, you want to go with negotiation strategy or the dispute method. Defaulted student loan, paid, you want to go with the dispute method. If you have a tax lien, you can go with either negotiation strategy, circumvention strategy, dispute method, or consumer statement. For judgment, you want to go with negotiation strategy or a legal action circumvention strategy, dispute method, or consumer statement. Then you have checkpoint, trans alert, caution, 2, dispute method, or legal action. An inquiry, either alternative dispute method, or legal action. So note, file segregation is the only 100% effective method to erase all negative items from your credit report. It is not, however, recommended or necessary for most cases. Chapter 4.